Imagine you are in a building, right? And the fire alarm is suddenly blaring.
Yeah, never a good feeling.
Right. But there are no glowing exit signs anywhere, there are no obvious stairs, and absolutely zero protocol to follow.
Just total chaos.
Exactly. You, our listener, you likely know what it feels like to have a plan for just like an everyday emergency. We're totally conditioned to expect some kind of procedure.
We have a rule book. Yeah.
We really do. But what do you do when society itself just seems to be unraveling and that comforting rule book is just gone?
It's terrifying.
It is. When we face these moments of absolute soul-crushing despair, we are thrust into this landscape of, profound uncertainty. And it's terrifying precisely because we're navigating without a compass.
Right. You're just flying blind.
Completely.
Okay.
So today we are custom tailoring a deep dive just for you into this deeply philosophical survival guide for the soul, basically.
A very heavy survival guide.
Oh, incredibly heavy. We are exploring a November 2020 essay by Su Feng, which was translated by Kinyu and edited by Kaur, and it's titled, "Let the Sacred Lamp in Your Heart Illuminate Your Road in the Dark."
Such a powerful title.
It really is. So our mission today is to, unpack this intense framework for maintaining your personal integrity when it feels like the rest of the world has just completely lost its mind.
And, this specific framework does not coddle the reader at all.
No, not even a little bit.
Yeah. Whether you are navigating some brutal personal struggle or like a professional ethical nightmare or even just the overwhelming ambient anxieties of modern society, Kuofeng offers this completely uncompromising blueprint.
Uncompromising is the perfect word for it.
Right. It demands a level of internal fortitude that most of us rarely practice. And that's largely because it requires dismantling our usual defense mechanisms, especially when we feel threatened.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if you are standing in that pitch black room, completely overwhelmed by external chaos, where do you even begin?
It's a great question.
Because the author starts with a premise that feels, honestly, incredibly frustrating. He argues that when you are in the depths of despair, getting angry is completely useless.
Just totally pointless.
Yeah. Shouting is completely useless, which frankly goes against every human biological instinct, right?
Oh, absolutely.
When we feel threatened, we want to yell, we want to project strength to scare off the threat.
What's fascinating here is the mechanism behind why Xuefeng claims anger fails in these specific moments.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So anger is fundamentally an externalized emotion, right? It relies on this psychological assumption that if you project enough force outward, you can somehow change your environment.
Like if I yell loud enough, the problem will go away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this essay is diagnosing a situation where the environment is immovable.
Wow, okay.
You're facing a structural collapse or this massive societal wave of despair. External noise literally cannot solve an internal crisis of meaning. Screaming at the dark doesn't produce light, right? It just depletes your oxygen.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. I kept thinking of it like trying to scream your way out of quicksand.
Oh, yeah. That's a great analogy.
Like the panic and the noise don't change the physical reality of the quicksand pulling at your legs. They actually just exhaust your central nervous system,
Yeah.
and they make you sink faster.
Yeah, that is a perfect physical representation of his psychological point. Instead of wasting energy on that external friction, Xuefeng introduces the core concept of the, quote, sacred lamp in your heart.
The sacred lamp, right?
Yeah. And this lamp represents a person's firm belief and faith. When you are stuck in that mud of despair, intentionally lighting and protecting that internal lamp is literally the only reliable method to illuminate your direction.
So it's an internal shift.
Exactly. You shift your focus from controlling the uncontrollable outside world to mastering your own internal state.
So the mandate is to, stop fighting the shadows and start tending to your own light.
Yes, precisely.
But, the essay attaches a pretty severe warning to this practice. It's not just some cozy meditation exercise.
No, not at all.
Xuefeng warns that if your belief and faith collapse because of fear, you will be entirely swallowed by the darkness.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it entirely shifts the battlefield. We usually think of the enemy as the corrupt system, or like the oppressive boss, or the societal mob causing our despair.
Right, the external bad guys.
Exactly. But Xuefeng argues the true enemy is your own internal fear. Fear is the gust of wind that extinguishes the sacred lamp. By succumbing to fear, you basically forfeit the only navigational tool you have left.
Which, I mean, makes sense in a purely philosophical vacuum. Having unshakable internal faith sounds incredibly noble.
Sure, yeah.
But let's bring this down to earth for a second. What happens when holding on to that faith, keeping that lamp lit, starts costing you real things in the real world?
Yeah. The practical application.
Right. Like, what if maintaining your moral baseline costs you your career, or your social standing, or even your physical safety?
Well, this is where the philosophy becomes incredibly strict. Xuefeng outlines a terrifying cost for self-preservation.
He really does.
He argues that if you start calculating your own gains and losses, and you give up your deeply held beliefs just because the environment is threatening you, your soul actually darkens.
Yeah, he uses the word stain, right, as if it leaves a permanent physical mark on who you are.
A literal blemish on your soul.
Yeah. But why is the penalty for basic self-preservation so severe? I mean, if I compromise on a moral stance just to keep my job so I can feed my family, isn't that just practical survival?
You'd think so normally,
Right. Like, why does calculation cause a stain?
because the act of calculation fundamentally changes your operating system. The moment you assign a fluctuating market value to a moral absolute, you are prioritizing the external world's corrupt rules over your internal sacred lamp.
Oh, wow. So you're letting them set the price.
Exactly. The stain isn't some punishment handed down from on high. It's the natural psychological consequence of letting external corruption dictate your internal compass.
That is heavy.
It is. Once you compromise your core beliefs for safety, you become part of the darkness you were trying to survive. And Suveng notes that washing away that specific stain is incredibly difficult, perhaps even impossible.
Man, I have to push back on this heavily on behalf of anyone listening.
Go for it.
Because humans are deeply social creatures. We are biologically wired to follow the tribe because, historically speaking, being exiled from the group meant starvation and death.
Oh, 100%. It's evolution.
Exactly. The sheer crushing weight of societal consensus is a literal survival mechanism. So how does this framework address the reality of a normal person facing down an entire mob?
It's a huge challenge.
Right, because it is incredibly easy to sit in a quiet room and write never compromise. But it's another universe entirely when literally everyone around you is conforming to a lie.
That's completely valid. But Xufeng does not shy away from the massive pressure of societal consensus. He actually tackles it head-on by instructing the reader to view the crowd as fundamentally irrelevant to truth.
Irrelevant, wow.
Yes. The foundation you must adhere to, regardless of pressure, consists of facts and the law. Facts are the basis, law is the criterion. He explicitly commands the reader to completely ignore the clamor of media and the pressure of gossip.
Even if the dominant narrative is being enforced by everyone you know.
Even if, as he vividly describes it, people all over the world are lying and cheating. The essay pushes the scenario to the absolute extreme.
I mean, how extreme are we talking?
It tells us to hold our ground, even if heads of government globally are supporting falsehoods, and even if celebrities and the ultra-wealthy are in high spirits, actively cheering for those lies.
That's intense.
Yeah, the actions of the powerful or the majority do not alter the molecular structure of the truth. You must hold your bottom line regardless of the size of the parade marching in the opposite direction.
That is an astronomically high standard. It basically demands that you look at every rich, famous, and powerful person on Earth celebrating a falsehood, and you, refuse to pop the champagne with them.
Even if they threaten to destroy you for it.
Exactly. There is a line in the essay that crystallizes this brutal binary choice. He says it is better to die on the way to the purest land than to live on the grand road to hell.
Such a striking image.
And he calls out the act of winking at the darkness for self-protection as a fatal spiritual error.
Yeah, there is zero middle ground in his view. Winking at the darkness, that tiny, seemingly harmless gesture of playing along just to get by is a total surrender of the soul.
But hold on, if we are accepting that we cannot control the external environment, and we are just one tiny powerless person stuck in a massive machine, we literally lack the leverage to fight the whole world.
Sure.
If I refuse to wink at the darkness, but the darkness is a literal tidal wave, I'm just going to drown with my eyes open.
Right. And this raises an important question about strategy. And it's actually where Sheffing reveals a surprising layer of pragmatism.
Pragmatism, really?
Yeah. He actually acknowledges human limitation. He writes that your strength might be very weak, and you genuinely might not be in any position to change the overall situation. He is not demanding that you throw your body in front of a tank if it won't actually stop the tank.
Oh, okay. It's like being a tiny rowboat caught in a Category 5 hurricane.
Exactly.
You obviously aren't going to punch a 50-foot wave and make the storm disappear. The storm is happening regardless of your moral outrage. But you still have agency over how you steer your little boat.
Precisely. And the rule for steering that boat when you are outmatched is very specific. In order to survive, it is entirely acceptable to keep silent.
Wait, silence is a valid option?
It is.
That feels like a massive concession compared to the absolute purity we were just talking about.
Well, it's a strategic concession, not a moral one. Silence is framed as a survival tactic to protect your sacred lamp from the wind. However, the caveat is absolute.
Okay, what's the caveat?
While you may remain silent to survive, you must never collaborate with the darkness.
Oh.
You cannot become its accomplice, and under no circumstances are you allowed to shout for it.
Ah, okay. So, if the mob is cheering for a lie, and you lack the societal power to stop the mob, you are not morally obligated to scream at them until they trample you.
Right.
You can quietly stand to the side of the road, but you are forbidden from clapping your hands and joining the cheer just to blend in and feel safe.
Because cheering for the lie, even if you secretly know it's a lie, feeds the storm. Silence insulates your internal light, but cheering actively throws fuel on the external fire.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
And furthermore, Zhifeng applies this pragmatism to the way we process information. He advises that if you do not know the actual facts of the situation, you must stay silent.
Oh, man.
Yet do not jump to conclusions based on hearsay or unverified rumors.
Which, requires immense discipline today, considering our entire culture is basically built on instant hot takes and reacting to gossip.
Right. But it requires a belief in the long game. The essay argues that facts have a natural buoyancy. They will eventually surface.
Truth always comes out.
Exactly. And when the truth inevitably comes to light, those who rush to judgment and contributed to the mob mentality based on rumors will be consumed by regret and shame. The darkness is temporary, but the psychological stain of being an accomplice to a lie endures.
But, this absolute insistence on the truth eventually coming out and people feeling shame for their complicity, it implies that someone or some system is keeping score.
Yes, it really does.
Because if you are staying silent and doing the right thing in a complete vacuum and no one ever sees you holding your ground against the mob, it feels like that integrity just vanishes into thin air.
It can feel very isolating.
The lie often wins in the physical world. So what is the actual mechanism for justice here? Does the author think our silent resistance actually matters?
Well, that frustration is exactly where Zhuifeng introduces his most metaphysical and honestly profound concept to solve the problem of unseen integrity. He calls it the information retention space.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about the mechanics of this. Is the information retention space just a poetic metaphor for the collective unconscious, or like human history eventually getting the story straight? Or is he talking about something far more literal?
Oh, he is describing a literal metaphysical mechanism of the universe.
Really?
Zhuifeng warns the reader against having a, quote, fluky mind.
Fluky mind.
Yes. This means you should never trick yourself into believing you can get away with a moral compromise just because no other human being is looking.
Right.
We assume that if we hide our secrets well enough, they just cease to exist. But this information retention space is an absolute cosmic ledger. It records everything.
Wait, everything. Every action, every whispered conversation.
Every single one. Yeah. Without a single omission. It records actions, words, and critically, your innermost thoughts.
My innermost thoughts.
Yes. The essay asserts that God knows every thought of all people intimately. While humans are incredibly skilled at deceiving one another and even deceiving themselves, they can never deceive God or this universal recording mechanism.
So even that completely silent moment where you sit on your couch and mentally justify doing the wrong thing at work tomorrow,
It's recorded.
that internal wink at the darkness where you sell out just a little bit, it is logged. It is permanently etched into the fabric of the universe.
Exactly.
That is an absolutely terrifying level of accountability. An omnipresent cosmic security camera recording my every thought sounds like an unbearable amount of pressure.
Well, it sounds terrifying if you are the one doing the compromising. But if you connect this to the bigger picture, for the person who is suffering in the dark, this concept is actually meant to be the ultimate reassurance.
Reassuring because it means you aren't suffering for nothing.
Reassuring because it guarantees that justice is an inevitability, not a human invention. Zhuang writes that the bank of justice has never closed down.
Oh, I like that phrase.
He insists that the devil has never actually defeated God, and the underlying conscience of humanity has never fully vanished. God is actively watching everyone's performance from the sky, observing how you handle the darkness, and choosing which lives will ultimately go to heaven.
So if you are the person holding the line, refusing to lie, refusing to cheer for the mob, even if you lose everything and die penniless and anonymous in the physical world, your integrity is not lost.
Never.
Your refusal to surrender was witnessed, verified, and permanently logged in the information retention space. The system works, even if society is broken.
That is the core comfort of the essay. It gives you the confidence to wait for the day when light will shine across the earth again. Because regardless of how impenetrable the despair feels today, Su Feng is absolute in his certainty that darkness will pass and the sun will rise again.
Wow.
Yeah, your only job is to make sure your soul is intact when it does.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, navigating the reality of today? We've explored the necessity of the sacred lamp, the psychological danger of calculating risk, the strategic power of silence, and this ultimate cosmic ledger keeping track of our internal choices.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. If justice is inevitable, how does this framework suggest we actually identify what is right in a world filled with competing narratives? Like, how do we know what the light actually looks like?
Well, Shofeng clarifies this by radically redefining the concept of light, basically stripping away all of our societal metrics for success.
Okay.
In our daily lives, we instinctively confuse light with visibility or influence or power. But the essay explicitly dismantles this. It states that power does not represent light. Material wealth does not represent light.
So basically the opposite of modern culture.
Yes, prestige, the influence of the media, and the weight of public opinion. None of these things represent the light.
That distinction changes everything about who we look up to. We naturally gravitate toward whoever has the biggest platform, the highest net worth or the most political leverage. We just assume their success means they have aligned with the truth.
Right. We assume they are the guiding force.
Exactly. But Shufeng throws all of those metrics in the trash. And the actual benchmark he establishes for light is incredibly profound. He writes that light is represented solely by those who can make the people of the world live and work in peace and contentment without ever seeking their own self-interest.
Selflessness and the cultivation of peace. That is the true north of this entire philosophical system.
I love that.
If a leader, a movement, or even a personal decision does not produce peace and contentment for others without a hidden selfish motive, it is simply not the light.
Doesn't matter how popular it is.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how loud or well-funded it is a clarifying lens that cuts through all political and social noise.
So we have our definition. We know exactly what the light is and what it isn't. So what is the final instruction for the person standing in the middle of a dark room trying to survive?
The author delivers one final, incredibly empowering call to action. He says, if you look around your environment and you cannot see the light anywhere, then you must become the light yourself.
If you are waiting for a savior to bring a torch and no one is coming, you have to ignite your own.
Yes, and by making that choice, by becoming the light and generating peace for others in the midst of extreme darkness, the essay promises that you will be glorified, you will be lifted to heaven, and from that moment on, you will never experience death again.
Man, it takes the most isolating internal struggle imaginable and attaches literally cosmic stakes to it. Every small decision to resist the mob or stay silent instead of cheering for a lie becomes an act of universal significance.
It's incredibly empowering.
It really is. But I want to leave you, our listener, with a slightly different angle to chew on long after this deep dive ends.
Okay, let's hear it.
We just defined true light as absolute selflessness and the creation of peace and contentment for others. Now, look at the structures that govern our modern lives. The algorithms engineered to harvest our outrage for engagement, or the economic systems that exclusively reward ruthless, self-interested competition.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If Shuifeng's definition of the light is true, are we exhausting ourselves trying to carry our sacred lamps through modern systems that were fundamentally designed to extinguish them? And if so, does holding onto your integrity eventually require opting out of those systems entirely?
That is a terrifying, but honestly necessary evaluation of the world we've built.
It reframes the entire challenge. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this intellectual journey today and for coming along on this deep dive into the source material.
Keep your lamp lit.